my name is Helene and I'm back today with an update on my BBC Top 100 Books list, which I printed out some months ago. I think it's almost a year ago, and the purpose was of course to read all of the books eventually and just enjoy them, hopefully. Anyway, I'm here to give you an update on how things are going, which books I've read so far and what I thought of them, etc. So let's get started. I did some counting and I have now, at the moment of speaking, read 42 of the 100 books on this list. So I'm almost halfway, which is good. I mean, I think when I started back in the beginning of this year, I was at about 25, 26 books. I actually can't remember, but you will be able to watch my video on it that I did back then. I will put the link to it down below. Anyway, I'm now at 42 books, and I will say that I've had some amazing reading experiences so far. For instance, one of my favorite books that I have read since then is, what is it called? The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. I love that one. This is a children's classics, and obviously I had heard about it through other people, but I'd never read it, and now I have, and I'm so happy I did because I absolutely loved it. I've just read some amazing books on this list, but I've also read some books that I liked, but they weren't particularly my favorites. For instance, we have 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This book, which I read, and at the moment I gave it 4 stars because I was very overwhelmed by it, and I was kind of proud to have made it through the book because it is quite daunting and confusing. But after having read it, I think that it's not really a favorite of mine. It's not a 4-star book. So even though it's on the list, and even though I do appreciate its complexity, I don't think it's necessarily a book for me. Now, another book that became one of my absolute favorites of all time, which is on this list, is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This one, and besides from it being a beauty, I just love the content. I'm very happy to have been introduced to Thomas Hardy and his writing through this list. So definitely the list have given me some great reading experiences, which also leads me to my next point that I want to talk about, which is the books I'm currently reading which are on this list, because there are 4 of them, 4 books that I have almost completed but not yet. And the first one is exactly a Thomas Hardy book, and that is Tess of the D'Urberville, which is supposed to be even better than Far from the Madding Crowd. At least I've heard so many people say so. And another book that I'm currently reading is His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. I have taken off the dust cover, but it's basically just these 3 novels, and I have read 2.5. I only have about 200 pages left of the very last book, but I put it down some weeks ago, and since then I haven't been able to pick it up. So I most certainly will, because I do want to know how all of this ends. And this is also the 3rd book, I think, on the list, so I need to read it and finish it. I also need to finish the last book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Return of the King, which this whole trilogy, or at least the first book, is on the list as the very first book that you need to read, the very best book of all time, at least according to BBC. So I need to read this, and I really like the first 2 books. So I think it's because I know how the story goes. I've watched the movies and I've heard the story multiple times, so maybe that's what's refraining me from actually reading the last book, but I most certainly will sometime in 2016. And the last book I'm currently reading, I have been reading for the past year, and that is Ulysses by James Joyce. I will say though that I'm more than halfway through it. I only have about a third of the way to go. So, but if you've read this book, you know why this is so hard to get through. I don't want to give up. I mean, I have read so much of it, but it's not a pleasure to read, so I think I'm going to skim read the last third of it, just because I want to be able to say that I've read it and I've finished it. So yeah, this is also on the list, but it's not a favorite of mine, I have to say. And that is it for my update on the BBC Top 100 Books list. I will take it very slowly, as I've been doing for the past year, and just read a book whenever I feel like it, a book from the list. I'm not going to stress out and make a goal for myself to finish it in the next year, because I just want to take my time with it and enjoy the books. However, I do have another thing I want to talk to you about, and that is my new blog, my new book blog, because I have decided to open a blog in which I discuss books, review books, just as I do here. But the thing is that sometimes when I talk about books on this channel, I don't feel like I have the opportunity to actually go into depth with my book reviews. Yes, I do if I do a video review on one book, but if I do my wrap-ups, I feel like the videos will be way too long if I talk in depth about all of the books. So I've created this blog in order to be able to really discuss the books and tell you my thoughts on them and just share the books that I'm reading as I'm reading them. So if you want to, you can go and check that out. You are more than welcome to do so. The address is jeppesenbookreviews.blogspot.dk if you live in Denmark. I think that if you live in the United States, it's .com, and if you live in the UK, it's .uk. I'm a little bit confused about that, but I will put the link to the blog down below so that you can go check it out if you want to. And also leave a comment on the blog if you want to, letting me know that you have heard about it through this video and that you want to follow me over there as well. That would be very nice. And that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day everyone, and happy reading. Bye bye.